No, I've only been to Orlando once, and that was with Richard.
Okay. Okay.
And you remember
Well, no more than you.
it? And they're over there taking pictures of my RX-7. And I went, maybe they built it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Gettin 10-8. And this week, boy, do I have a treat with you. One, if you'll notice, we've got that firefighter paramedic background. We have two living legends on the show with us here, and we're going to talk with these guys. When I was coming up as a little bitty EMT A or a little bitty EMT basic, these were the big boys. These were the paramedics that when I came to work, they were who I was trying to learn from. We have Mr. Mike Stanton just below me here on the screen. And over to my other side there, we have Richard Chapman. This is their first time here. And of course, y'all recognize Scott St.Germain that's down there, caddy corner to me on your screen. Welcome to another episode. And we are just going to be talking about one, catching up, because these two guys went to the same paramedic class, came up, worked on the same departments, and I tell you what, both of those guys were big heroes to me back in the day. They're still big heroes to me. I got to actually see Richard at a crawfish boil one time, and that was the highlight of my week, I guarantee you. So, welcome back, and without further ado, Richard, Mike, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invite.
No problem. No problem at all. Now, Scott has a connection with you, Mike. You dealt with some issues after Hurricane Katrina. First, I want Scott to tell the story of the love of his life.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And if it wasn't for Mikey, it wouldn't happen. So so Mike was already, one of those guys, around AMR, with the story of the 911 rescue 911 that we talked about, and Mike was a supervisor at the time, so he was a great mentor and somebody we all looked up to, and that's Mike. I think it was about the time that you were just separating from Pam, and you had that Corvette, and we were partying a lot, and I had gone out on it was early in the summer. I had gone out on a sailing trip and met a few girls from North Alabama, and I don't know, man. It was almost 3 months later, 2 or 3 months later, and they were almost out of sight, out of mind. And you said, Scott, I got this condo on the beach, and some things fell through. I'm trying to get some people to go. Why don't you invite some girls and you can stay for free or something like that. You paid for the condo. And Mike, I remember us in your Corvette driving over to Florida to Destin that night. And I said, man, this girl is so hot, Mike. If she'd have me, I would sell my sailboat and buy a farm in Alabama. And that was our first date that night. And we've been married now for 26 years. I didn't have to buy a farm. Well, I did. Actually, I did, but I was able to buy the farm in South Mississippi, which ended up leading into the Mike after Katrina. Mike got washed out of his house that he was in down in Gulfport, and I was like, Mike, we got all this land up here we just bought because of the farmer girl that I just married, and who happened to have lived with Mike, by the way. She lived with Mike for about a year before we got married because we were Catholics and couldn't live together, and
Right.
so she lived with Mike, right? And so then Mike came up and lived up here with us. And ended up FEMA put a house out here, a FEMA house, which Mike lived in for a number of years as I mean, gosh, what, 5 or 6 years you were up here with us, Mike? And
Yeah.
then Mike went back to Meridian to take care of his dad and his mom. And he left this house for us. And ever since then, it's been a place where when, people need a place to stay or we recently it's been a place where we've had a homeless man that we've had staying there. And if we wouldn't have this place, we wouldn't be able to do this. Rob, you know the story, Johnny, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without Mike. So it's another where I just kind of hold Mike up there as, all these times where Mike was in our life or at least in my life and made significant changes. So I was really excited to be here to do this podcast and share that.
Yeah. Look, Mike, what do you have to say? What are your recollections of all that?
Oh, I remember it just like that. Scott, he saved my life a couple of times, not literally, but figuratively. And the things that he's done for me far exceed anything that I could have ever done for him, because he's done a lot for me, and we've been close friends for a very, very long time. And I appreciate the things that Scott has done.
Yeah, love you, brother.
Well, look, I want to talk about your former roommate before you ever met that little turd, Scott St.Germain. You and Richard Chapman up there at Caddy Corner to you were in paramedic school together, and y'all were roommates and worked at the same departments. How'd that all go for y'all, Richard?
It was great. We were, I don't think we were all, I think we were on different shifts most of the time. And, and if I'm not mistaken, we were both working part-time at Mobile Medic at the same time. So, they reached a point where he needed a place to live. So he moved in with me, and we might pass each other in the door I'd come in and I'd have half a dozen fire department uniforms and a half a dozen Mobile Medic uniforms, and he'd be going out the door with new ones,
Yep.
But he was a great roommate. You couldn't ask for a better roommate.
Now,
Yeah, the uniform thing is that's exactly how I lived, was uniforms. I really didn't have any regular street clothes for the longest time. I might have some shorts and stuff to throw on, but uniforms was all I had.
well, I'm going to tell y'all the schedule that they're talking about, how they passed in the day. If you're wondering how roommates probably weren't there at the same time, was that they worked opposite shifts, and back then this was a 24/48 schedule. So they're 24 hours on the fire department, and if they're picking up a shift at Mobile Medic, they're going over there. There's another 24 hours at Mobile Medic.
Or
Then
48 or 70.
Yeah, and then you're off, for a day supposedly. But Joe Paul did that schedule for a while. He worked 48/72. He worked Gulfport Fire, and then he worked AmServe.
Yeah. There were times, like I said, I'd leave the house and with several uniforms, and I'd go back and forth from one to the other for a week or 10 days. I remember one particular, I spent about a week working, and it was a real busy weekend at Mobile Medic. I worked all weekend at Mobile Medic, and I got off Sunday morning, and I was dead tired. I'd been running calls. Back then, we didn't run in the ambulance. There were so few paramedics. We had that advanced
Sprint truck,
that big Suburban.
Yep.
And I had been running for like a week. I had been running lights and siren everywhere I went. And I'm on my way home, and I came up to a red light on Pass Road, and I checked both directions and just blew right through it in my personal vehicle, because I was so used to running red lights.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that before. It's there. It's instinct.
Well, that's one of the things that I was explaining. A lot of folks that are looking at this podcast, y'all, are medics that are medics currently. So they don't have stations that they sleep at. They didn't get into all the station pranks. They're working that Panama schedule, you know, the every other weekend's a 3-day weekend, the 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off. That schedule, but they're doing it on 12 hours. They aren't doing it on the full 24-hour cycle.
System status management, I think.
Right, system status management, which back when we were doing all this, that wasn't the case.
I don't know, neither one of y'all worked at Mo Medic, but the original Mo Medic.
I did.
Yeah.
Did you work at the office on 28th Street?
No, I worked at the one that was
on 2nd Street.
2nd Street, right?
Yeah, by the
old
casino.
funeral home. The funeral home.
Yeah. The one on 28th Street, every time we'd pull out, we'd get called in the middle of the night, and we'd pull out and we'd go 10-8. And if you went 10-8 as you were going out to drive, it would set off the burglar alarm for the business in front of us.
Yes, it did.
And we'd do it just to piss him off because he'd have to come down
Reset
there and
it.
deactivate it. And he finally got smart. He said, well, if they don't mind that thing blaring while they're trying to sleep the rest of the night, I don't either. So he just let it blare all night. There was no sleeping. So we learned our lesson.
Yeah. It was constant.
That'll break y'all from sucking eggs.
But yeah, you had 24, 48, or 72 hours or whatever to think of trouble, to get into trouble. And there were some classic pranks there. I almost got shot by Bill Markopoulos pulling a prank on him.
I remember one night, I had been there long enough where I bypassed this prank. I believe it was you and Timmy Hargrove that curlexed me to a bunk, though.
Couldn't have been me because I ain't big enough.
Well,
No.
I was dead ass asleep.
Oh.
I got curlexed to the bunk, and then y'all had dispatch tone out my unit. You know, couldn't get up.
No, we wouldn't have done anything like that to a rookie.
No,
bullshit.
We never picked on the new guy.
Oh, now the most classic prank I remember was guy gets in bed, thinks everybody's gone to sleep, or acts like he thinks everybody's gone to sleep, but he knows they're still awake. They're wired. It's a new guy there, not me. I'd been there a couple of months when this happened. New guy comes in, and it looks like he is going to town under his covers. And he's making all the sounds. And that guy's like, stop it. Stop it. Don't do that, man. Don't do that. And all of a sudden, he comes from under the covers with a 60cc syringe that he has loaded up with warm water and shoots it across the room at that guy.
Oh, shit.
I don't know.
Water and mayonnaise. So okay. I may or may not have been involved in that prank.
I was there that night. I thought we were going to have to hold him back. I thought that was it for you. Because you weren't that big of a dude. You're still skinny as hell.
Oh, I took a lot of ass beating. And usually I was laughing the whole time they were beating on me. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you grew. I happen to know. I ended up working as an offshore paramedic years later. And when I was offshore, I happened to be going to a crew change one morning. This little scraggly dude, little bitty dude. But man, he looked like he could have been Richard's twin or Richard's brother. And I said, what's your name? Because I'm going to the same platform, same drilling rig he's on. He said, it's Chapman. And I said, Chapman. I said, are you related to Richard Chapman? Oh no, I don't know him. And then it turns out that's your big brother.
Yep.
But he would tell me stories about how you grew up. You were just paying us back for everything you and your brothers had done when you were younger.
Oh, I was the baby, and I took all the abuse.
Yeah, but I got told of a time that you finally got tired of taking that, and you had, I don't remember what the weapon was, but you were chasing them around the yard. You were fixing to wear them out with something.
Well, what they would antagonize me to the point where I couldn't stand. I'd run and I'd get my BB gun, and I'd say the BB gun. Well, as we got a little bit older, I got a pellet rifle, and they give me a little more distance, and then I finally graduated to a 14 shotgun, and they pissed me off one day, and I ran in the house, and they were laughing till I come out there, and this 14 shotgun with a little single barrel, and the stock was red on it. You couldn't mistake it.
Yeah.
I'm running out the door with that shotgun, and they went from laughing to their jaws hitting the ground, and they hit the woods, and they would not come out of the woods until my daddy got home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you came by it naturally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Mike,
Richard,
what about?
Let
Go
me
ahead.
let me ask Richard, if you and Mike were two ships passing in the night during that in the 80s there, and Mike, you were on fire department. Richard, Mike, you were working AMR and in a sprint during that time. Is that correct? And you're covering Gulfport, Biloxi, all the way over to
No, he
Louisiana
didn't have
State
Biloxi.
line, right?
No.
No.
he had-
Gulfport, Biloxi line. The Bees. He's covering the Bees to the Louisiana State line.
No,
How
he
did the
covered.
stars align?
Yes.
He
for you
covered
two?
up until past Christian. They always had a
Okay.
paramedic that they would put. Bay St. Louis was a paramedic truck.
Okay.
No, they would try to put one in if they had it in Bay St. Louis, if they had one. Typically, they would put one in Bay St. Louis if they could, and one in Gulfport. The ALS unit, the old Suburban, would run out of Gulfport, but they tended to run the Suburban all over the place because Gulfport Fire Department had more paramedics than Mobile Medic did.
This is true. Yeah.
And there was always a paramedic on duty at Gulfport Fire Department.
I
So
see.
they
Mike,
basically relied on Gulfport to provide the paramedic.
So, Mike, you were on a Sprinter truck when you ran to their call with that lightning strike.
Yeah, I was a supervisor, middle of the day, lightning strike. Never expect much, it's odds of getting hit by lightning are no better than trying to win the lottery. And, but yeah, sure enough, there were two kids that was sitting under a tree. It hits a tree and arced over to them. In bad shape. Our response was pretty quick. Richard was on the rescue truck just right down the road, so he was the first one there. It got there pretty quick.
How long were you working it, Richard, before Mike shows up?
Do what now?
How long were you working it before Mike shows up?
Well, let me back up because I always want to give credit where credit is due. Those kids would have never made it if it hadn't been for the next door neighbor who was a respiratory therapist and came over and started CPR on them. When I got there, they were both in cardiac arrest. We started CPR and I intubated both of them within the space of about a minute. I had them both intubated. And
That's incredible.
once I got them intubated, then
Yeah.
we got their heartbeat back, and about the time we got the heartbeat back, I think it was when Mike showed up, and I think I told him to take the worst of them. There were two of them. I said, take this one. He's really bad, and because man, I was so overwhelmed. I mean, working on kids is tough enough.
Yeah.
Working on two kids, I think they were maybe 12, 13 years old. And working on two of them in cardiac arrest, it
And one of them's sister was present, correct?
Yeah, the sister was there, and I would still see her. Years later, I would still run into her or her mother, and they never failed to grab me and hug my neck every time they'd see me.
I looked it up. I looked them. I kind
Wow.
of looked, with Facebook and social media, you can find just about anybody. And I found the sister. They actually had two sisters. There was two sisters to one of the boys, and then the other boy actually passed away about 10 years ago.
I'd heard that he had passed away, but like I said, I was out of it by then, so I didn't really know much about it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Yeah.
look,
So,
it was
so
a
how
great
did,
call, and when they came down to do the episode about it, I tried to stress to them, look, we want the emphasis is we want to show that the system works. The first in, second in, we tried to emphasize how much the system, not concentrate on people. Of course,
Right.
being TV, they got to pick on somebody, and I happen to be that one person, but we tried to emphasize the system worked in the whole thing, I'll tell you a funny story about that. You remember who narrated Rescue 911?
oh yeah.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
William Shatner.
Yeah.
And my wife is a Trekkie. She loved William Shatner. And when she heard that they were coming down to do it, she was so excited. She just knew she was going to get to meet William Shatner. I said, honey, he sits in a sound booth in LA and reads a script. They
Right.
give him. And so she didn't get to meet him, and I got a T-shirt out of the deal. So
So, look, here's something that we don't typically do, but we're going to have to do on this episode. In our description, when you look at the description, if you'll scroll down lower, I'm going to have a link to the episode that we're talking about, this call, so you can go back and look at the Rescue 911 episode that covered this call that Mike and Richard were both part of.
and I was much better looking then.
Yeah, you were. But you know what? Let me tell you. You two, both of you, there's something that triggers somebody. These guys, these young men are watching these episodes. I was watching these episodes in the 80s, and it was something that triggers young men that watched what you did, and you saved that life and said, that's what I want to do, and you're heroes for that.
Like I said, the
I know
hero
you
is
won't
a
see that way.
therapist in my mind. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell people all the time, I wouldn't take anything for the time I was there, but I don't think you could pay me enough to go back and do it again.
No.
No.
Yeah.
What about you, Mikey?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. I treasure the time I was there. I was 20 years in the field, and
Damn, that's a
it was
workhorse.
my life. It's all I did. And yeah, and so no, I wouldn't trade it for anything either. But like Rich said, I don't think I could go back, even if I was able to.
Well, look, let me tell y'all something. Let me pick this up. I still have this, but I use it as my coaster now.
Yeah.
So when I
That's a
set
good
this
idea.
glass down, it doesn't make a sound when I'm recording.
Yeah,
I could have dug one
that's
of
good
mine.
thinking.
That's one of those that still has the blue thread on it where I had it sewn on a uniform.
Yeah.
So I mean it's still sticking out. That's just some of the old patches I pulled off one of the uniforms.
You know what I hated was when we became paramedics in Mississippi, they got rid of, we were AMR. We became AMR, and no more gold patch.
Really?
We had to wear that white patch that said paramedic underneath it. You remember that, huh, Mikey?
I don't remember. I thought we always were able
Oh
to
no.
wear the National Registry.
You had to
patch.
wear the
never-
AMR patch.
No,
I never
it's
got-
been a long
never-
time. So
I never got to wear the gold patch
Oh,
until I
yeah.
went to go work for Gigger up in North Mississippi. Yeah, well, North Mississippi, north of here.
It's southeast Mississippi, but okay,
recall that
north
now.
to y'all. Yeah, we used to call them when you got it brand new, when you got the big envelope and you got that patch. we called them disco patches because when you walked in the room and that shoulder hit
Glittered.
the light, it'd glitter all over the wall.
Yep. You earned it.
Oh Lord. Yeah, those were the days. I tell you what, we used to have fun when we were on the ambulance. If you were on standby, and you were down at White Harbor or somewhere on standby, and you knew you were going to be there for a long damn time, there wasn't nothing that would keep us from lifting up that back seat, moving the backboard out of the way, and pulling out a couple flounder gigs and wading out there and sticking some flounder.
Oh, we used to, I forget their names, but there was a brother and sister that worked for Mobile Medic that their parents lived in the pass and had a pool in their backyard. And if you were working Long Beach, we'd just bring us our swimsuits and we'd go hang out at their house and swim.
Yeah, that was the
Richard and
that was the Ebright.
Ebright, yeah.
Remember
Sarah and
that.
Richard.
The Ebright.
Yep. Mike, you were at Plastifax, weren't you?
Yes, I was at Plastifax.
I thought so.
It was on Seaway Road, the chemical factory, and it
Yeah.
exploded.
Right,
Like big time explosion.
right, big time, yeah.
There were parts of bodies. Yeah,
Yeah,
it blew up big time.
that
There were
was
body parts. I think there was like 3 or 4 killed.
well, I've carried the first victim, well, not the first victim out because there were a lot of walking wounded, but the first one that was rescued from in there, I carried him out and he died in my arms on the way out.
Now, Mike, were you on the rescue truck at that point, or
Yes.
okay?
I was off
And
duty.
You were
Yes, I was on the rescue truck. As a matter of fact, I had to don one of those chemical suits. It was a plastic chemical suit
yeah.
that you couldn't get out of if you were in it. You had to have somebody help you put you in it and then get you out of it. And that was kind of confining and nerve-wracking for sure. And so
that covers your
SCBA factory.
Yeah,
There was
you're encapsulated.
it covers everything. And of course, it was probably mid-July. I don't remember the exact date.
Yeah.
It was
when that
hot.
exploded, but it was one of those hot ones. And it didn't take long to get fatigued. I think they gave you maybe 20, 30 minutes at the most to stay in that thing. And that's whenever I saw, the horror of the tragedy of this thing as far as bodies go.
Yeah.
How many were lost in that explosion? Does anybody know here on this podcast?
I know there were at least 2 fatalities. I know that for sure. One was
I was thinking
straight out, and
Yeah.
another one was a guy that basically was blown in the blast and hit a building, and he's half went in the building, half went out the building. So I know there were 2 for sure. I don't know if anybody else died later on down the line. There was another guy that myself, Mike Bash, Bobby Kennedy, and I forget who else, we went in and found him, and he was still alive, and we were all sharing our air pack with him, because it was so toxic. And we ran out of oxygen, not oxygen, but out of air. And so the only thing we could do was go south. The wind was out of the south. The only thing we could do was keep going south, and ended up down by the Seaway, stranded, because you couldn't go back through there. And we were sitting there, and we saw this old Army Huey fly over and land out on Seaway Road. And I called on the radio. I said, what's going on with that chopper? They said, well, he saw what was going on. He stopped to see if he could help. I said, well, send him over here, because we have no way to get out of here. And so he took off, flew over and landed, and all of us got in the helicopter and with the victim, and he flew us to Gulf Coast Community. I found out later that chopper had just come out of the Air National Guard base where they repair them, and he was an ex-Vietnam pilot whose job was test flying when they came out. So that was his test flight.
Wow.
He flew like an old Vietnam pilot. He scared the hell out of me. And I swore then, I said, I've had one helicopter ride and I'll never take another. Little did I know. But
Yeah.
That must have been when Gulfport shut down helicopter service for paramedics on the coast. We didn't have paramedic air service
oh
along
no,
the whole
this was
coast.
just a ad hoc thing.
Yeah,
It
I
just
know. I was
happened.
kidding. Yeah.
And when the skids hit the ground, I couldn't get out of that thing fast. And of course, we were all sick from fumes, and so we were all sick anyway. But the way he flew that thing, I could not wait to get out of it. And
Yeah.
Did he do Nap of the Earth?
no, he went high, but when he landed, we went to the old Gulf Coast community. And when he came in sideways, and I'm sitting in one of them that little seat on the side where your feet are hanging outside.
Right.
We're sliding down towards the earth at a very rapid rate. And I thought, we're going to slam into the ground. And
he feathered it back.
he overshot the runway, the little pad. And right before we hit the ground, he applied power and we stopped just in a hover at about 10 feet. And I'm looking at the Gulf of Mexico. And then he spun it on its axis just like that quick.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the hospital, and then he sidewalked it over and set it on the pad. And when those skids hit the ground, my feet were about a half a second behind them. I couldn't drop it down fast enough.
Lord have mercy.
That's great.
And I swore then I'd never fly in another helicopter.
But you did.
I did, yes. Just one more. Never.
Rob,
Yes, sir.
Rob, a while ago you mentioned White Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And White Harbor 90. And back in the day, whenever all of the ambulance was busy, you just had one ambulance left, and that's where you went, because that was pretty much central to Bees Road to the state line. So that was
You were covering
was a logical
everything.
place to put one single ambulance. Yeah, he had it all. And that night, John Knight and I were on the unit, and Biloxi Jail Fire broke out. And so, we responded over there. It took us forever and ever. Of course, that was AMSER's area.
Yeah.
But they needed help because there were 29 victims of the
Right.
fire. And they had the fire out by the time we got there, and they were trying to locate, and figure out who was injured, who was dead, and all. And there was water, of course, on a slick, medium gray concrete floor, had about an inch of water on it. And we would just take the bodies and hydroplane them out through the front door.
This is a person. He lived a life, and you're going to push his body down a water slide because what? It's more convenient?
Yes. Yeah.
Have y'all?
Rapid transport. That's rapid
that's one of
transport.
That is rapid transport.
That- have y'all seen-
taking 29 lives? and
I've
they
heard
had,
this story from Lou Blomberg about Lou Blomberg was there with you guys. You remember him? He was Biloxi. He was Biloxi
Yeah, I
PD at
remember
the time, and he ended up working with AMR. He was married to Virginia. He worked that Gulfport fire, and I heard that story about you guys trying to get them out rather quickly.
You brought up that, it kind of brought back a memory. Let me tell you about the jail fire. I didn't realize you were there at that one too, Mike. I didn't realize how many calls we did together. And we kept trying to say, we need to go back them up. We need to take air bottles to them. My real purpose was the week before, my oldest brother had been in that jail. And he had issues with drugs and stuff. And the week before, he had called me from that jail. And all I could think of was, my brother's in there. And so we finally talked him into letting us go.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And we responded over there, and we got, by the time we got there, most of the bodies had been brought out, and they were all lined up on the sidewalk under sheets. And I'll never forget walking down that sidewalk, pulling back
Looking
sheets,
under the sheets.
looking for my brother.
Oh,
Now, unbeknownst to me, he had been released
yeah.
a few days before. But, that was, they talk about the trauma of the job. It was the idea that I was going to pull back that sheet and see my brother was just unbelievable.
Well, the whole time I worked down there on the coast, I lived up here in Hattiesburg. And my reasoning, my logic in my head that I came down and got to meet you two heroes was, if I'm going to work on somebody, I want to be working on a stranger. I don't want to work on people
Yeah.
I know, people I went to school with. I don't want to work on my family. And one night, we got a call to 1215 36th Avenue. That was my grandparents' house.
Ooh.
Oh,
And we got the call. So they had just taken out, I don't know if you remember, but 36 used to be a cut through over, you
Over
could
the
drive
track.
over the tracks.
Right.
But to get to my grandparents' house, I always had to go around, way down, almost to Bro's Grocery to turn and cross the tracks. That night, I jumped those tracks with that ambulance and pulled in for my great grandmother, who was having difficulty of breathing, was the call. She was in CHF. God love her. At 84, 85 years old, they found out she had breast cancer and they opted to do surgery. I don't suggest going under general anesthetic when you're that age.
yeah.
With CHF.
She ended up with CHF, and I picked up and brought my great grandmother to the hospital. And it was one of those that was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning when it happened. And so, of course, we're the unit that's awake. And we'd been at the hospital for about 20, 30 minutes. Well, that's because I'm in there, talking with the doctor about my grandmother. And we got a call given to us. We had to go from Gulfport VA to Biloxi VA. And what do you not do if you get a call dispatched to you? You don't argue with dispatch.
Yeah.
So I went and made that call. We went and made the call. And on the way back, when we got 10:08 after the call, I told them we're 1022 Gulfport Memorial. And they said, what are you going there for? And I said, that call previous to this was my great grandmother. And the dispatcher was Beth LeBlanc. And she said, I'd have never sent you if I'd have known that was your family member. Well, in the time that I had gone on that call, she coded. And I didn't find that out till I got to the emergency room, and they got her back, and she's intubated. They got a pulse back,
Right.
and she's on a ventilator. So we got to watch for the next week her organs systematically fail before we finally pulled her off the ventilator. Had I been there and she'd have coded, I'd have said, "Stop, no code. I'm family." But yeah, that was a
Tough call.
I went down there so I wouldn't work on family, and then I had to work on my great grandmother.
I had something similar. I moved out of Slidell because of that. I came over here out of Slidell, so something similar. Just so Richard and Mike, I had to do rock, paper, scissors with Pontius, because Pontius is a regular on here, and I had to do rock, paper, scissors to be able to be present tonight for this, to be able to be here with you two. Mike has all the.
No,
Mike should have been here, but I won. So.
Hey,
but
no sense in thanking Mike about it, because he won't see this episode. He's never watched an episode.
But he won't. But Mike told a story. Pontius told a story a couple weeks ago about him. He had to code his own mother.
Oh man,
he got called to code his own mother. So that's yeah. I had an incident as well, Rob. With my great Rob and I both worked Bogalusa, Washington Parish Ambulance Service. A little small outfit in southeast Louisiana, and I was just a basic at the time. And my great grandmother Rob was she was in a nursing home, but for a very short time in Slidell, as they thought she was passing at the moment. And I got a call that the nurses there said that she was passing at any moment. She had death rattles. I
Yeah.
was like, death rattles? I had never heard of death rattles, and maybe they're
Wait,
talking about
wait, wait,
rails.
wait.
Yeah.
Did they sound like that?
Well, so I talked Sonny Corcoran, the owner of the ambulance service. Let me take an ambulance down there, and we went down to Slidell, and she had. I used a yanker tip and got rid of the death rattles, and she just had gurgling that they
Yeah.
had to suction out. And I was like, let's load her up and take her to my parents' house, and enough of this nursing home stuff. And and she came and lived with us and lived another 6 months from death rattles.
Because she needed to blow her nose, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this that you heard in my chest, I had a head cold in like 93. I burned my lungs up with hydrogen sulfide out there offshore, and it messed up the cilia. So anytime I get anything in my head, it drains down into my chest, and I get this bronchitis. So I'm also, I turned 60 here in a couple days, and I'm on blood pressure medicine and thyroid medicine, and I contacted my doctor today and said, hey, can you give me a script for Intex LA? And she called me back. She said, no, not with your blood pressure. We're going to get you something for high blood pressure. She said, and she could hear me with expiratory wheezes while I was
Sound a
on the
lot
phone.
better than you did yesterday.
Yeah. And she said, okay, we're going to call you in a steroid, some antibiotics, an inhaler. So I called wanting one prescription. I'm getting 5 in return for it.
Right on.
Welcome to getting old.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, were you on the coast? We were talking, maybe it was the week before last. We had gone off. I was with Steve Delahousie and Thomas Blatney and Roger Few, I believe. We went down to ClinCon.
What?
You remember ClinCon?
Yeah. When was this?
This was this was the year that had that massive pileup because of the fog on the interstate, like 94 cars up in Pascagoula. You remember that?
Over the Pascagoula Bridge.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you work that accident?
I don't recall that I did.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I did.
Yeah. You
That
wouldn't
was-
happen to have been in Orlando with us for ClinCon, would you?
No, I've only been to Orlando once, and that was with Richard.
Okay. Okay.
And you remember it?
Well, no more than you.
I do remember.
We went to a
we were there.
dive rescue specialist class.
Do what?
Or was it? What kind of class was it? I thought it was
Dive
dive rescue.
That's where they taught us how to use an air pack for scuba.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being in the swimming pool
Did it work?
with air packs on and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah. You'd have to crack the bottom.
Yeah, yeah. Fire department sent us down there.
Yeah. We drove down there, and I had a Mazda RX-7 at the time, and
Yeah.
I
You
think that
didn't
was
sell.
huh?
You didn't sell that to Scott Sauls, did you? Is that where he got his
No,
RX-7?
no. If I could find it, I'd buy it back today. But we drove down there at about 90 miles an hour, and there might have been some alcohol involved. And we we got down there. We stopped at a McDonald's to eat, and I'm trying to tell this delicately without being offensive, but we stopped.
No,
at
you can
McDonald's.
be offensive.
While we're in McDonald's, this tour bus pulled up, and about 200 Asian people, I'm going to assume Japanese, whatever, look.
They all had their cameras.
All young people, I guess they were there for Orlando, and they're over there taking pictures of my RX-7. And I went, maybe they built it. I don't know.
Exactly. well, Richard, do you remember, Richard, there was we were on Pascagoula Bridge. We were stopped because of the traffic or a bridge or a chip going under. But we pulled up right alongside a girl in an RX-7, exactly like yours, same color and everything.
Really? I don't
You
remember.
remember her?
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Because we rolled our windows down. Yeah, we rolled our windows down and shot the shit with her.
Mike, Richard's wife
We
sitting
sure
right
did.
next to him.
She don't care. She knows I was.
Oh, sorry, man.
That's why she fell in love with me. I was the bad boy.
Yeah. If you
Oh,
were hanging
God.
out with Mike, that was a bad thing.
I do remember one night in the ambulance, been like 3 o'clock in the morning, been running all night long, and no traffic. We pull up at a red light, just us and me and my partner in the ambulance, and I was driving, and a car pulled up next to us, and it was a young couple, teenage couple, and they pulled up, and the girl was in the passenger seat. And she looked up at me and smiled and went, "Boop." And I went,
Wasn't even Mardi Gras.
no, I guess she knew I just needed something to boost my spirits because I was
There you go.
down.
Yeah,
Wherever you are today, honey, God
Thank
bless
Good
you.
for you. God bless you.
Oh, Lord.
Richard, I was going to recommend when I met your daughter at the vet hospital that she watch this, but now maybe not.
Oh, my daughter knows. She knows all the history. Yeah,
Mike, did you know that his daughter was a veterinarian?
I did not. As a matter of fact, I've been wanting to talk to Richard for the longest time because, yeah, we had a good old time and were big buddies back in the day, but
Yeah.
we just, you kind of lose touch.
right.
Yeah.
He's still in Meridian, huh?
After I,
He is,
looking at Facebook. Yeah, Meridian. I moved up here 14 years ago, and I miss the coast so bad. You guys have no idea.
No.
But it's where I've got to be right now. My mom's
Right.
Yeah.
my mom. She's 93, and been doing well, but dementia and Alzheimer's is starting to take its toll.
Right.
But yeah, I've missed Richard because we were always good buddies. We had good times and worked together well. And then I'd heard he had had an accident, and I see him on Facebook and Leslie on Facebook a lot. So I've been wanting to reconnect, and so I was really, really excited tonight when I saw that Richard was going to be there, and because you'd talked, Rob, that you'd send him some stuff and was going to try to get him on. And I was really fired up whenever I saw that he was there tonight, and I've been wanting to see him and shoot the shit with him for a while.
Well, look, let's, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little 5-minute break so we can all get up and pee if we have to. Then we'll come back. And then I want to hear that story because Richard, you got to see some stuff about new EMS. So I want you to tell your story. Are
Okay.
you willing to share it with us?
Oh, sure. I'll tell you anything you want to know. You want to know how I met my wife? No, you don't want to know that story.
No. All right. We'll be
Hey, was
right.
she the one?
I think she was.
All right, folks. We'll be back right now. Now we're back. That's how quick it happens. Just like that. So, just before we left, Richard, we were getting into, you got to have an experience with newer EMS. First, let's hear how this happened and what happened, and then your story of how you were treated thereafter.
Okay. I was working on a deer stand up in just outside of Richton, Mississippi, out from Hattiesburg.
Right.
There were 3 of us there. My good buddy Irvin Rippey, who's, I don't know if y'all know JD Rippey, it's his dad, and my son-in-law and me. We were up there, and I had my tractor. It's got a front end loader on it, and I was standing in the tractor, the front end loader of my tractor, while my son-in-law was at the controls. That might have been my first mistake. I'm not sure. But at some point, it shifted. Honestly, I'm being fair here. I don't think it was him. I think it was something I did, but it shifted just enough to make me lose my balance. And I flipped backwards out of the bucket. And I remember as I was falling thinking, I'm going to land on my head. I'm not going to get turned around fast enough. And sure enough, I hit. And in case you're curious, yes, when you break your neck, you feel it and you hear it. It is not something you want to experience. And I knew it as soon as I hit. I rolled over and ended up kind of sitting up against the tractor tire. And Rippy was running towards me. He said, "Oh my God!" I said, and "Now here's the bad side. I was the most experienced medical person there."
Yeah. Don't touch me. Don't move me.
As I was falling, I wasn't paralyzed, but I was numb. And as I was falling over, I said, "Don't move me, call an ambulance." And I fell over into an ant bed. And so I laid there and they called 911. And again, we're about a mile off the pavement down in the woods. And so they called 911, and I believe it was AAA ambulance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, AAA.
And I got to give credit. I wanted to make sure I wrote his name down, make sure I wouldn't forget it. Ambulance got there, and David Mapp was on the unit. Okay, I'm sorry I don't remember his partner's name. But now, again, going back, remember I came from the era when the ambulances were all basic EMTs.
Right. That was me.
So I'm laying there, and you cannot imagine the pain I was in. And they showed up, and he walked up, and I looked at him. I said, "Is either one of you a paramedic?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." And so the old school kicked in. I said, "All right, let's get on the phone, get a hold of the doctor. Let's get an IV in, and let's get some morphine on board because I am dying." And he looked at me, real quizzical look, and he went,
"Yeah, morphine."
"Yeah." He said,
"I got fentanyl."
And he said, he looked at me, and the way he was looking at me, he was like, "Why is this guy quoting all that?" And I said, "Man, I was a paramedic for years. I know the routine." He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "I got good news for you." He said, "Number one, I ain't got to call the doctor. Number two, I'm going to start an IV on you right now. Number three," he said, "I got something better than morphine." I said, "There's nothing better than morphine." He said, "I got fentanyl." And I went, "Oh,
yeah,
whoa.
Baby.
Ain't that the stuff that's killing everybody?" And his famous words were, "I promise I won't kill you." And so they got an IV in me and started giving me it. Now, here's the thing about fentanyl. They give you just enough to take the edge off it. They're not going to stop the pain. And I'm laying there, and I said, they got the collar on. They got me on the board. I said, "Please get me out of these ants," because they were just eating me alive.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole back was afire. And so they moved me out of the ants, and they said, we called for, what is it, Life Flight 7 out of Hattiesburg?
Rescue 7. Rescue 7.
Well,
Did they give you epi for all the ant bites?
no, actually, from what I've been told, the ant bites might have actually helped because they triggered the endorphin release or whatever.
Really?
But so anyway, they told me initially that the helicopter was coming out of Hattiesburg. And then at some point they said, they can't make it. I think they got diverted. So they're sending a helicopter out of Gulfport. Well, a cold front had just passed through. And so there was a strong north wind. So it took about an hour and 20 minutes for the helicopter to hit.
Wow.
And I'm laying there, and I heard the helicopter coming. I said, "Thank God, thank God." And he came over and he started hovering down. And they said, he's going to see if he can land here. I said, "Look, there's a shooting house over there. Burn it. I don't care. Just get rid of it if he needs to land it." Well, he came down, he got almost to the ground, and he flew away. And I went, "Oh God." And David said, "Man, he's not a military pilot. Military pilot would have set it down."
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so they flew to a pasture about a mile away and landed. They ended up putting me in the bed of a pickup truck and driving me out over that trail.
Wait, they didn't put you in a unit?
You're on a board, huh?
Oh,
Oh,
I'm on a board in the back of a pickup truck. They couldn't get a unit in there. They
gotcha.
had to use a 4-wheel drive pickup. And so they got me out and got me to the helicopter. And by the way, I'm told I had a really attractive flight nurse, but I couldn't tell you because I don't
Where
know.
was your pain, Richard? Where was your pain exactly? Was your neck?
In the neck and the shoulders.
Yeah.
When I first hit and I felt it and heard it break, it felt like lightning going down both arms.
Right.
And I mean, I knew it was broke. And I told David I said, dude, it's broke. Trust me, it is broke. And so anyway, they loaded me. By then, David had already given it, and the time it took him to get there, I think he dosed me 2 or 3 times with fentanyl to keep the edge off. And then they finally got me in a helicopter and flew me to, they said, where do you want to go? To Hattiesburg? I said, no, I'm from Gulfport. Let's go to Gulfport. So they took me to Gulfport. When I got to Gulfport, then they started with the morphine, and thank God they did. Because the morphine,
that knocks it out.
yeah, the pain, that's what took the pain away. And I won't talk about everything from that point on. I remember when the helicopter landed, it was the sun was just setting, and it was just kind of eerie. The sun, right as we sat down, the sun was setting, and they took me out. And as they wheeled me in, my wife was waiting for me there. My wife had told, when they first called her and said I had been in an accident, she said, can't you just put him in a pickup truck and drive him home? And had no idea, how bad it was. But anyway, so they were wheeling me in, and she was there to meet me. And I looked at her, I said, I messed up bad, honey. I messed up really bad. And they wheeled me in, but I will tell you this, from the first ambulance getting there to the helicopter ride, the EMS, top notch. I mean, you couldn't have been in LA or any big city and gotten any better care than what I got.
Good to know. Good to hear.
And I spent about 4 or 5 days in the hospital at Memorial before I got sent to Ochsner's where they did the surgery and stuff. But it just
Where was your fracture?
thrilled about riding in a helicopter again, to be honest with you. I don't like helicopters.
Yeah.
Now I got a pilot's license. I had my own plane for a while. I'll fly an airplane. Helicopters ain't supposed to fly.
No.
So, but anyway.
They just beat the air into submission.
Right, exactly. So I wasn't real thrilled about the helicopter ride, but at that point I was willing to do anything to get out of pain, But I will say this, from there was the coordination, the care I got, everything was top notch.
I'm going to pass that along. I'm up here in AAA country. I'm going to pass that on to them, and I'm going to show this video to Vic, who will make sure that all those medics, and including David Mapp, get to see this episode.
Well, here's the rest of the story.
Good job, David.
A couple of months after when I started getting, I lost about 3 months of my life. I don't remember.
Right.
But when I started kind of coming to my senses, I went on Facebook and I posted, because everybody was saying what happened. So I posted this story, and I on Facebook I said the EMS care I received was top of the line. Well, then I get an instant message, and it says, "Were you outside of Richardson, Mississippi?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Did that you fall out of a deer stand?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "I was your medic." So I've since friended David.
There you go.
So
Right
I
on.
followed David on Facebook and stuff. So I've
Oh,
talked on since then.
oh, David, there's an episode. You and David Mapp, a reunion on this show.
I tell you, Dave was.
Oh, that would be great.
Was the man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was probably thinking,
great to
"Who
hear.
is this old fart that thinks he knows my job?"
Richard, was
Yeah.
your once you got into the hospital, was your care as good as your pre-hospital care?
Might want to tread carefully here.
We probably don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, kind of what I was.
Friend friend me on Facebook and find my story on Facebook.
I will do that.
I was keeping up with what was going on with you, Richard. I don't know if Cham was telling you, but I was getting updates very regularly. Yeah, because I was worried about you. Where was the fracture? I can't remember. See what?
Well, it was actually several. I can't tell you all the details. I can tell you this. I am fused from C2 to T2.
Wow.
I have steel running
Man.
from T2 to T2.
You look like you have a lot more range of motion than that.
You would not think I'd be able to move, but I've got pretty good range of motions.
And what about your pain now?
No problem at all.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Well, let me tell you the rest of the story. Before I ever had that accident, I had already had 4 cervical fusions from injuries at the fire department.
Right.
When I was a firefighter, I went through a stairwell, and that was back in the day when we used the old Scott packs with the corrugated hoses. Yep. And I went through a stairwell and pinched my hose, and I suffocated. And another firefighter, his name is Bill Spearance from Pass Christian, I think. He pulled me out, saved my life. But over the years, I had 4 cervical fusions before this. So I was used to neck pain, but
Right.
This was a whole nother level. And so they got me fused, and about 6 months later, I go back to the hospital in Ochsner's, and I'm talking to the doctor over there, and I said, well, I've already had 4 cervical fusions. I don't guess I have to worry about that anymore. He said, you couldn't herniate a disc if you tried. There's nothing but steel there. Yeah, I've got really good range of motion and everything. All things considered, I should have either been dead or paralyzed, and I've got pretty much a normal life. So,
And you didn't have to wear a halo, did you?
No, I didn't do the halo. I was in a collar for almost a year. But
what year was your accident?
Huh?
What year was your accident?
2019.
It'll be 3 years this September.
So 2022.
So you were hospitalized during COVID too.
Yeah, I think I was. I don't remember much about my hospitalization. I just remember saying, "Give me more drugs."
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, I can tell you that it was funny because when David first walked up and I started telling him how to do his job, he looked at me like, "Who is this old fart?" But I can't say enough about
Hey, folks,
the care from them and from the air ambulance. First thing Rippy asked me when he saw me, he said, "Man, did you see that nurse you had?" I said, "Not really." He said, "Man, she was cute." I said, "Man, it could have been a 6'6" gorilla. I wouldn't care as long as
good Lord.
Not to mention you're back on the helicopter again.
And I was back on the helicopter. I can tell you right now, if you want me on another helicopter, you better have a gun, because I've had 2 trips. One I was a medic with the patient. And the other one, I was the patient. And I've had both ends of it. No need to do it anymore.
Yep.
Well, the good news is the flight should have been real quick getting back.
Oh yeah, the flight back was like 20 minutes, because we were hauling coming home, with that tailwind.
Yeah.
I will say this: David and them were not the first ones there. The first one there was the game warden, young blonde-haired game warden. I didn't get his name.
In Perry County, I bet I know him.
Real nice. I was thinking, damn, he ain't old enough to be a game warden. Real young, and he came up.
Was he short?
Huh?
Was he real short?
Yeah, kind of short.
Was his name Colt Mooney?
It could have been. I don't know. I don't remember. But he came up, and I looked at him. I said, "You a medic?" He said, "No, I'm a game warden." And I kind of cut my eyes over to Rippy. I said, "Go push that feeder back further away from the shooting house." That's exactly what the game warden said. He just laughed.
Well, you weren't hunting, so that's fine. You can have that feeder pretty close before actual season starts.
And then, you know, I went back up there, I guess probably about 6 or 8 months. When I was able to travel, we were back
Still in
in Richmond and in the collar, yeah. And I saw a game warden's truck we were at the little gas station in Richmond. I saw a game warden's truck and I looked and it was him. So I walked out there and walked up to him. I said, "You remember me?" He said, "Oh yeah, I remember you." He said, "Man, I can't believe you're up walking around." I said, "Yeah, me either."
That's great.
I've talked to him once or twice. And again, he didn't have a lot of medical training, but he did what he could. I mean, he would reach underneath my back and grab a handful of ants off my back periodically, you know, just he did whatever he could, you know.
That sounds miserable. Worse, the ants. The ants got to be the worst part.
Oh, my wife has pictures of my back. It's horrible. It's horrible. And people ask me, "Did you feel them?" I said, "Yeah," but compared to the broke neck, they were minor.
It wasn't as bad.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I gotta say that for EMS to have started with people like me and Mike, who questionable. You got to understand, Mike. Where did we would have dinner? We would have class from 12 to 5, and then we go to dinner, and then come back for another 4 hours. Where'd we go to dinner at?
Bar.
Yeah, it was usually a restaurant type bar.
What was the bar in the mall?
Bernie's, maybe.
Bernie's.
Bernie's.
I think it was Bernie's. Yeah.
Many a night we drank dinner at Bernie's. And then
We did. Absolutely.
How the hell we passed our paramedic, I'll never know.
Yeah.
But anyway, for the nucleus of EMS on the coast to go from that to what we got now, it's impressive because
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
But if y'all aren't aware, there are so many changes. Like, there are no longer mass trousers on ambulance anymore.
I know. I heard that.
They don't.
Tell them what we just learned about National Registry.
Yeah, National Registry. There's no mega code in it.
Imagine that.
Do they still have ACLS and all that?
They count on the ACLS and your instructors in the paramedic class. When you remember, the registry was started so that everybody went through the same training.
Testing.
They didn't want individual. Oh, this school lets you pass easier than that school.
Right.
Well, they've gone back to. They've taken all the practical stuff out of the registry. It's just a written test.
Really?
And yeah, you sit in front of a computer and you're taking this test on the computer. Here's another thing. Guess what else sitting on that ambulance? A paper report.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Everything's on computer now. Because
Jimmy now.
yeah, I was going, I said, well, you know, I'm on this fire team. I said, I'll go back and take a refresher class because I can challenge all the way back up to paramedic again if I want to. And I said, I'll go to this refresher class at AAA, you know, so I'm in there with a bunch of AAA medics. And I'll go through this refresher class and I'll just go challenge for the EMT ambulance. And they said, no, you won't. I said, I can challenge all the way up to paramedic. They said, Rob, there's no such thing as an EMT ambulance anymore.
Really?
It's an EMT basic.
Yeah.
And an A EMT, advanced EMT, which is an EMTI.
Yeah,
but now
there anymore.
Now the intermediates, instead of having to use an EOA, they can intubate.
Intermediate can?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The AEMT can intubate. And you know, they've got like some drugs that they can push, some drugs. So, and
huh?
yeah, oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. the cardiac monitors, we were all Life Pack 5 was our bread and butter. You
Right.
know, you're looking at lead 2. That's what you got, bud. You go to confirm, you know, you aren't going to work the code by going to the other leads to show that it's assistantly on all 3 leads. But, you know, it's a Life Pack 5. These guys have got.
Did you pace with a 5? I never used a 5.
No, you couldn't pace with a 5. Pacing didn't come until the Life Pack 10.
Yeah, I started with the 10.
Yeah, I had a
I
Life
saw
Pack
the
5.
5s, but
I had a Life Pack 5 when I was offshore. You know, and then they upgraded to the 10. And I had to learn about the pacing and the shoulder roll for capture.
yeah, that was cool. That was great.
So the 10 would pace?
Oh
yes, had an
Then
external
that worked
pacing.
with the 10 apparently, because we never had a pacemaker.
No,
Oh yeah.
no,
That was great.
no. That was in the 90s that came around.
Let me tell you a story about the Life Pack 5. I went, you know, when you went to shock somebody, you had to charge it.
Yeah.
And it made that zing, charging out. I go on a call out in the county, way out in the country one night, and get there. It was supposed to be drug overdose. Get there, and there's 3 guys sitting on this one guy on the bed. And it was 3 brothers holding their 4th brother down, who was supposedly on drugs and having some sort of fit or whatever. And I walked in and looked at him and said, "Hey man, you okay?" And he's underneath them going, "Yeah, I'm okay." I said, "You gonna behave?" He said, "Yeah, man, I'm good." I said, "Okay." I said, "Y'all get off of him." They said, "You don't want to do that." I said, "No, I can't assess him while y'all sitting on him. Y'all got to get off of him." They said, "Okay." So they got off of him, and he sat up, and I sat beside him on the bed, and I'm talking to him. Everything's going good. And all of a sudden, just somebody flipped the switch. And I like to say we went to fighting. It really wasn't that. He went to beating the hell out of me. And I mean, he was a big old country boy, and he'd beaten me like crazy. And the only thing I could do was get him in a bear hug him, so he couldn't get a really good blow on me. Rolling off the bed in the wall, and he's still trying to kidney punch me and everything else. And I managed to get to my radio, and I'm hollering 1099, 1099.
Yeah.
Y'all remember TJ Hill?
Oh yeah.
Old TJ. TJ, just an old country boy, and sometimes he'd aggravate the hell out of me, talk so much. But when I started hollering 1099, he was on the unit coming in, and because I'd gotten there in the ALS unit, and I could hear the turbocharger kicking in from a mile away. And he come rolling up in there, and he grabbed that big boy, and he slung him against the wall and pinned him. I said, "Okay." And I learned a whole new respect for TJ that day, because I said, "TJ, I love you, man. I buy you dinner every night." But anyway, we get him down, we get him strapped to the gurney, we get him in the ambulance, and now it's just me and him, and we got a 30-minute ride to the hospital. And he's laying there, and he's unconscious. You know how they would close their eyes, unconscious, but you do the eye thing, and yeah. So I did that, and I said, "He ain't unconscious." So I reached over and I picked up the Life Pack 5, and that from Rescue 911, everybody knew that sound, right?
Yeah.
And I went, "Zing," and I charged that baby up. And I leaned down, I said, "If you so much as bat an eye, I'm gonna knock you in the middle of next week." The whole trip. Now,
Look,
probably go to jail for that, but
Apparently, you didn't have spider straps at the time.
no.
dude, the reason I got
Prolax.
that lower back is from those old stretchers that we had to pick up, and
The M30, the Furno M30.
Yeah, if you had spider straps, that dude wasn't going nowhere.
oh no, they could get out. We could strap him with everything we had in there, and he could still get out if he wanted to bad enough.
In North Gulfport, where a guy, I swear this guy was possessed, absolute possessed, and I mean, he told us he was the devil.
Look,
And
look.
I mean, obviously, this guy was just cracked out. He was so on whatever, but he had some superhuman strength, and it took about 3 sets of spider straps to a backboard to keep him. I mean, the guy wasn't. I could handle the call on the ride back to Memorial, but I was like, yeah, I believe this guy that he's possessed. Why don't you one of you fire guys ride back with me in the back of the ambulance?
Look, let me tell you something. Spider straps be damn. You couldn't do much better than a scoop stretcher sandwich.
Yeah, yeah,
Never
right.
thought of that.
yeah.
We would take a scoop. They'd be on a backboard. You put a scoop on top of them and then run
then
those
spider
straps. Well, we didn't have
Yeah.
spider straps. We just had regular straps. We'd strap them down. You put about 4 of those straps because you always carried extra straps. You got them strapped in 4 points and they're squished between a backboard and a scoop. They're meek as a little lamb.
Look, talking about fighting patients, Mike, we don't need to mention names for HIPAA rules, but you remember the guy in Long Beach that was a diabetic?
Oh yeah.
He
Remember
knocked
his
us out of the
name?
world
Oh, yeah.
when he wasn't in a crisis. But every time we went, we had to fight him.
Yeah.
Every morning. I'm officially old now. I go to the little corner store and drink coffee every morning. And Toxie Smith from Long Beach Fire Department, I drink coffee with him.
Yeah,
and we
you're
talk about that
officially
guy
old.
all the time. Because it got to a point where you'd send 2 ambulances and a fire truck and at least 1 police car. Because we couldn't fight him every time.
You were. And
And
you usually find him out in the road.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one of those in Marion County too. He was diabetic and everything, and he had all the meds for other stuff. He had lots of problems. But every month when he'd get that check, first thing he'd do is he'd go to a liquor store and he would buy him a bottle, and he'd take his money, shove it down in his pocket. He'd pull his pocket knife out and he'd whittle a stick, make a sharp end on this stick. Then he'd put that knife in his pocket, blade up, so if anybody reached in his pocket, they were getting cut. He'd take that top off that whiskey and flip that cap over his side and sit there and drink until we'd get a call, probably 5 or 6 hours later. And we'd
and
have
his,
to go
and
pick
his
him up.
sugar's about 20.
Oh yeah, yeah. And one time we picked him up. We brought him into the hospital. He's in the emergency room there, and he was pretty calm and everything. And then all of a sudden, we look and he's sitting over there like that. And I said his name, yada yada yada. Just calm down, calm down. He said, "Calm down, hell!" And he swung that blade. He had that knife. He was cutting through that strap on that stretcher. And he swung that thing and he put a 5-inch tear in my damn uniform shirt. And he was on one of those Furno M30s. That was the wrong move. I just backed up and kicked that damn thing over. Oh,
Richard,
man.
Speaking of some of the frequent flyers, Richard, do you remember? Did you respond often up in Dido when you were working that Orange Grove area, Laurendee Heights, that
Oh,
family?
Oh yeah.
The family. Yeah, we won't have to say their names, but it was
Nope.
the 2 brothers and a sister that lived together.
And they didn't need
Yep.
anybody else.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
inbred, I think.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
they had
yeah.
it was like a group home with no social worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did
And they-
respond. So we were in the same timeline then. We were responding. to
Well,
that same
no. You when you were there, you missed their other brother, I believe, probably. That made
No, the younger
made-
brother. I was there with the younger that was completely handicapped, completely.
Yes.
Yeah, I took care of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
That's the one where I'd walk in, I go to turn the light on in the room, and the whole wall looked like it shifted. And when
Yeah.
you turn the light on, it was cockroaches that just were.
Did you ever
And you
have
had to
to
hold your
watch?
breath just to go in the front door, take a deep breath, and as quick as you could get them out of that house.
Did you ever have to watch the Loretta Lynn show in there?
No, but I did see Vicky nude on the VCR tape that was sitting on the top of the VCR.
I don't know about that, but no, when I'd go in there, the sister, she had Loretta Lynn posters on the wall. She was a big Loretta Lynn fan.
Yeah.
And she had taped a makeshift microphone on a broomstick. And she when we drop off this patient, she'd want to sing us a song on the way out. All right, that's
Right.
great. We gotta go. Bye.
Wait, I got, Mike may have been on this call. I got to tell you about this. We go to a call for a beating in what used to be called Seward City, Gulfport, part of Gulfport. It was a poor black area of Gulfport down below 22nd Street.
Yep.
And it was a bar in an old house that somebody had turned into a bar. It had a screen porch on it. That's, I mean, you know, and they had a pool table in there. And we'd go in there and
It was called the Hoot Owl Club.
Might have been. We go in there and the guy's unconscious on the floor, you know, agonal respirations, the whole 9 yards. And I was a new paramedic, man. I'm doing my thing. I'm starting IVs. But there's this young woman, she's probably in her 20s, mid-20s. And she's standing there watching, and she's just fascinated because she's watching 911 in real life, you know? And so I started an IV on the guy and I asked her, I said, would you hold this for me? And she's holding it for me and all this stuff. And every time I do something, she, look at you. And she was just, you know, the uniform. And so, but she was really dressed kind of extravagant for this little screen door bar, you know? So I kind of figured, okay, she's a hooker. And so anyway, we get ready to go out. So I'm on to the headboard. We got him on the backboard and everything else. By the way, at the hospital, when they put him on the stretcher on the bed in the hospital, a 32 fell out of his pocket. But
$32 or 32 pistol?
32
pistol.
Just trying to wonder.
Which told me the lesson I learned there is pistol don't do you no good in your pocket because he died. He got the brains beat out because he couldn't get his pistol out of his pocket. But anyway, we're going out the door and she's holding the screen door open for us as we're going out. And as we went out, she had a piece of paper and she stuck it in my pocket. I've got my hands full with the head of it. And she stuck it in my pocket and she says, "You awfully cute for a white boy. You come out." Which honestly, hell, I considered it
flattered. You were flattered, weren't you?
I was flattered. But the problem was all them other firemen and medics heard it.
Oh, you never lived it.
Oh, yeah.
Forever.
Oh, yeah.
So, but Mike, were you on that one?
You know, I wasn't, but I was just thinking about that. I remember that happening.
Or he gave you hell about it. He was one of them giving you hell about it.
Yeah, I was probably
I heard about that for a long time.
I do remember that happening.
Richard, I had something similar when I had just after I got my medic. I responded to not Bay St. Louis, but Kiln. Responded to Kiln for a girl who had put peanut butter in a private area to let her cat lick it off. Right? And the cat did a little more damage than that. And so she called an ambulance and I showed up, and a lot like yours, the girl was like, "Wow, you sure are an attractive guy," you know.
I don't like peanut butter.
I know why you're in the back of this truck. There ain't no chance you're getting my number.
Right. So, but she picked up my name and my number, or not my phone number, but my badge number off my AMR badge, and somehow called through AMR. How this happened, Mike, I don't know. But man, this next thing you know, this girl is leaving me messages through AMR.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna be a friend out there.
I had to get
Oh, yeah.
AMR involved in it to get this girl to leave me alone.
Well,
Psychopath.
look, we joke about that, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be married for 43 years if I hadn't had the uniform, because I'm pretty sure she was a uniform.
3 years, my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
43 years. Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations on that.
And when I literally when I was after I broke my neck, I laid in bed and I begged her to let me die because I was in such pain, and I begged her, please just let me die, and she wouldn't do it. And all she had to
Good
do
woman.
was just put a pillow over my face, and she didn't.
Yep.
She had the chance and she didn't take it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, look at you now.
yeah.
She
well,
rehabbed you.
Yeah.
Look,
So,
look, you go hunting again, you're back in it now.
Oh man, I'm nothing's slowing me down except old age.
You
I hope
mad
you're
at them
not climbing
turkeys?
up in the bucket of a tractor anymore, though.
No.
Yeah, oh, that's a sore subject. Look, we'll meet somebody in that would find out I broke my neck. They'll say, well, how'd you break your neck? I can't even open my mouth. Her comeback line is doing stupid man shit.
Yeah.
All right, wait. Let me tell you now, Richard, just
You
to
have a
show
smart
you
wife.
to show you how much restraint I have had in not breaking down this incident. You know, I started off offshore as a medic. I left offshore as a health, safety, and security and environmental coach. So I was very kind to you.
Oh no. Wait. You know what I did after I retired from the fire department? I went to work for a tower company, a young tower company that was just getting started. And I worked climbing towers, climbing 500, 800-foot towers.
No,
And you
what
were
year was
doing
that?
it wearing
What
a
year?
full body harness with double locking lanyard, weren't you?
That's right. But
What year was that?
I started, it was a very small company and it grew pretty substantially while I was there. I ended up, you know what my title was? Safety director. You know what my job was? Teach these young 19-year-old kids
How to climb a tower.
Friend, you stay bonded or you will die. So, and then I retired from there after 17 years. And when I was still in a sea collar, the office just happens to be right up the road from us.
Right.
I went home one morning. Somebody was driving me, and they were having a class. The guy that replaced me was having a class teaching these new young kids how to climb towers. And I get out in a sea collar and walk over there, and I'm watching them, and the new guy, the new training director, safety director, looked at me. He says, "Anything you got to say?"
So you are now the point of lectures.
That's it. Look, everybody's good for something. I am good as a bad example.
There you go.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Folks, I tell you what, with that, folks, we're going to let you go for this week. Next week, I don't know who we're going to have, but it's going to be tough to beat this episode. I guarantee you. Mike, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have you on again. Like I said, we're leaving that mic and stand with you. Same thing with you, Richard. I told you the episode I want to do with you, so I just got to track down David Mapp. And Scott, you know you'll be back again. And hey, look, Richard, you're living down on the coast. You know Mike Pontius, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen him in years, but
Look, if you like barbecue, he
Yeah.
puts on a barbecue contest every year at his place. And it's $40 a head. It's all you can eat barbecue and all you can drink beers and all that. Got two
Where's it
live
at?
bands
It's coming
in
up.
D'Iberville.
Send me the information. I'll be there.
Richard,
I
I'd
will.
like to meet you there. That'd be great to meet you.
I'd love to
Because-
be.
Yes, it would. And Rob, thanks for getting us all together. I was real excited and very nervous about doing this, but it's a good thing. You've done a good thing here, bringing us together. Thank you.
Well, one thing that we've done, Mike, is we're telling these stories, and Mike Pontius says this best. He says, "Look, this is recorded. This is out there. This is in the digital world. This is,
Your
a
history.
mark
Yeah,
that happened.
your
It's history. His grandkids are going to be able to look back at this, and same thing with all of us. All of our families, and to be quite honest, you don't talk to the people in your family like we talk because we
No.
all had
Right.
the same bullshit experiences. We've got that bond,
And if you
So-
try to parent your family about it, they're like, "You're a sick bastard."
Yeah, that's absolutely
Yeah.
right. They wonder why I've got a twisted, sick, morbid sense of humor. Well, shit, that's the only thing you can have.
Yeah.
Mike, it was good to see you, brother. I love you.
Love you too, man. Take it easy. Good
Good
seeing
All
you.
right.
Call me.
All right,
Yeah.
folks. With that, we're going to call it an episode. Y'all have a great week. Look, if you want to email us any ideas for the show, you can email us. Point to it there, Scott. You can email us right here at gettin108@gmail.com. Give us any ideas you want to have on the show, and we'll talk about that. Also, if you've made it this far into the video, please go ahead and mash that like button and that subscribe button, and we hope to see you back here next week.
Wait, you think we should send him down the water slide?